The scope of Marcus Cole's Winchester 1866 caught the glint of sunlight off a brass button 400 yards down Apache Canyon. Three men on horseback, the Morrison brothers, bank robbers with a combined bounty of $900 on their heads. Marcus adjusted his breathing, steady hands, calm heartbeat. 3 years of hunting wanted men across Arizona territory had taught him patience. The war had taught him to kill, inhale, hold. Crosshairs settled on Jake Morrison's chest. Exhale halfway, hold, squeeze. The rifle cracked like thunder. Jake toppled backward off his horse, dead before he hit the red dirt. His brothers scattered, spurring their mounts toward the rocks. But Marcus was already working the lever action. Second shot. Tom Morrison down. Billy Morrison made it to cover behind a boulder. Smart. But not smart enough for a Union marksman who'd learned his trade at Bull Run and Antietam. Marcus shifted position 30 yards left. New angle. Clear shot beneath the rock. One bullet through the horse's legs, and Billy was pinned. Another through his head, and the canyon fell silent. Clean shots. Professional work. $900 in bounty money. But something felt wrong. These men hadn't been running from him. They'd been riding toward something urgent, desperate even. Black smoke rose from the hills ahead. Structure fire, the harsh kind that meant violence. Marcus mounted his bay gelding and rode hard toward the smoke, every instinct screaming danger. What he found in the hidden valley changed everything. An Apache settlement smoldered in ruins, but this wasn't random destruction. Bodies lay in defensive positions that told a story of systematic execution. Someone with tactical knowledge had planned this massacre, and standing calm as Sunday morning in the center of that carnage was a woman with a Spencer rifle, watching the canyon entrance. Waiting. She'd known he was coming. "Took you long enough," she said without turning around. "I was starting to think my signal fire wasn't big enough." Signal fire? Marcus felt the pieces clicking into place. The smoke hadn't been accidental. She'd deliberately drawn him here. "Ma'am," Marcus said, dismounting but keeping his Winchester ready. "I'm Marcus Cole, bounty hunter. This your settlement?" "My husband's. Was my husband's." She turned to face him, and Marcus saw intelligence in those dark eyes. Cherokee features mixed with Spanish heritage. This was no helpless victim. "Name's Kira Blackwater, half Cherokee, half Mexican, all trouble." Two children emerged from behind an overturned wagon, a girl of maybe 10, a boy closer to 14. Both carried weapons like they knew how to use them. "These are Rose and Sam," Kira said. "They've seen enough killing to last 3 lifetimes. Unfortunately, they're about to see more." "More?" Kira gestured toward the massacre site. "Colonel Morrison did this. Union cavalry officer turned war criminal. He's been staging false Indian attacks to justify land seizures. Railroad development, blood money." Marcus studied the scene with new eyes. The positioning of bodies, the precision of the assault. This had been executed by trained soldiers, not random raiders. Why signal me? Because Morrison's got a federal bounty on his head, $5,000. Army tribunal wants him for war crimes. She pulled an official document from her coat, genuine federal seal. "My husband was cavalry scout until Morrison had him murdered for discovering the truth." Marcus examined the bounty notice. $5,000 was life-changing money, but something else bothered him about this woman. Her tactical awareness, her weapon handling, her complete lack of fear. "You're not just a grieving widow." "No," Kira smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. "I'm Thomas Blackwater's wife. He trained me in reconnaissance, tracking, and marksmanship before Morrison put a bullet in his back." She led him to a hidden cache beneath a fallen log. Weapons, military-grade Spencer rifles, ammunition, maps marked with assault routes in defensive positions. "Morrison's planning something bigger than this massacre. He wants to clear the entire territory for railroad development. Every Apache settlement, every Mexican ranch, every independent homestead. She traced red lines across a detailed map. 200 families marked for elimination. Marcus looked at the tactical intelligence spread before him. This wasn't vengeance. This was warfare. What do you want from me? Partnership. You want $5,000. I want Morrison dead. Together, we can get both. The boy Sam spoke for the first time. Ma said you're the best tracker in the territory. Said you never miss. Your ma's well informed. She also said Morrison's got 20 veteran cavalry, all loyal, all trained killers. Sam's voice carried weight no 14-year-old should possess. But they're riding into our territory now. Our rules. Marcus looked at this family. At children forced to grow up too fast in a world built on violence. At a woman who'd lost everything but hadn't lost her fight. At a mission that could end with all of them dead. When's Morrison moving? Tonight, Kira said. He hits Tombstone Flats first, takes hostages, uses them to force surrender from other settlements. Marcus did the tactical math. 20 cavalry against 3 fighters and innocent civilians. Impossible odds unless you change the game entirely. Can't defend the town. Too many variables. Too many people to protect. He studied the terrain maps. But we can make Morrison pay for taking it. Kira's smile turned predatory. I was hoping you'd say that. What about them? Marcus nodded toward the children. Rose knows these canyons better than any Apache scout. Sam's a natural marksman. Better shot than most men I've served with. Kira's tone brooked no argument. This is their fight too. Morrison killed their father. Marcus tested Sam with the Spencer rifle. 5 shots at a wooden post 200 yards away. 4 hits, center mass, steady hands, steady nerves. The boy was a born sniper. All right, Marcus said, checking his weapons. Let's go hunting. The War Council took place in a hidden cave system overlooking Tombstone Flats. Kira had prepared this position weeks ago, stocking it with weapons, supplies, and detailed intelligence on Morrison's operation. Marcus spread tactical maps across flat stone while Kira explained Morrison's methods. Always the same pattern. Overwhelming force, psychological warfare, clean execution. He divides his men into 3 squads, she said, marking positions. Perimeter control, civilian gathering, building searches, textbook cavalry tactics. Textbook makes him predictable. Exactly. Morrison's weakness is his arrogance. He's never faced organized resistance, never fought an enemy who understood his methods. Sam climbed down from his lookout position. Riders coming, 20 men, just like you said, moving in formation. Marcus checked his pocket watch. 11:30. Perfect timing for a night assault. Morrison was nothing if not precise. Positions, Marcus ordered. Remember, we're not trying to save Tombstone Flats tonight. We're teaching Morrison that this territory bites back. Marcus positioned himself on Cemetery Hill with clear sight lines to Main Street. 300 yards of killing ground, every window, every doorway, every escape route covered by his Winchester. Kira took the abandoned mine works on the South Ridge with her Spencer rifle. Different angle, overlapping fields of fire. Classic crossfire position. Sam found concealment in the church bell tower with orders to spot and communicate, not engage unless absolutely necessary. The boy carried his father's rifle and a look of deadly patience that reminded Marcus of himself at that age. Morrison's cavalry arrived exactly at midnight. 20 riders in perfect formation, moving like the trained unit they were. No torches, no unnecessary noise, just the measured rhythm of experienced soldiers. The colonel rode at the front, tall man in his 50s, confident bearing, the kind of officer who'd never been outfought or outthought. Tonight would be educational. Morrison split his force exactly as Kira had predicted. 10 men for perimeter security, 5 to gather civilians, 5 for building searches, professional, efficient, wrong territory for efficiency. Marcus let them establish positions, let them relax into routine. Let Morrison believe this was just another intimidation operation. Then he put a 44-40 round through the chest of Morrison's sergeant. The man spun off his horse like a broken marionette. The other cavalry scattered for cover, but Marcus was already working the Winchester's lever action. Second shot dropped a private scrambling toward the saloon. Third shot shattered the shoulder of a corporal trying to flank the church. Kira's Spencer cracked from the mineworks. Another soldier down, then another. Morrison's voice cut through the chaos. Contact! Snipers in the hills! Take cover and return fire! But finding concealed shooters in broken terrain at night was different from intimidating farmers and shopkeepers. This was Marcus's kind of warfare. Patient, precise, lethal. The engagement lasted 90 minutes. When dawn broke over Tombstone Flats, 12 cavalry were dead or wounded. Morrison and 6 survivors had barricaded themselves in the bank with 8 civilian hostages. Marcus walked down Main Street like he owned it, rifle ready, sidearms within reach. 3 years of bounty hunting had taught him that audacity was sometimes the most effective weapon. Morrison, he called out, you wanted to meet the locals. Here I am. A rifle barrel appeared at the bank window. You the one picking off my men? Marcus Cole, bounty hunter. You're worth $5,000 to the federal government. 5,000? Morrison's laugh carried no humor. Well, I've got 8 people in here who won't be worth anything if you don't drop that rifle and ride away. Marcus had been in hostage situations before. They always ended the same way. Good people died while bad people escaped, unless you change the rules. Colonel, I fought in the war, served under better officers than you. They all had one thing in common. What's that? They knew when they were beaten. An explosion rocked the bank's rear wall. Kira's handiwork, shaped charges placed with surgical precision. Enough to breach stone, not enough to collapse the structure. Morrison's men spun toward the threat, and Marcus was moving. Through the front window in a shower of glass, Winchester firing as he rolled behind the teller's counter. 30 seconds of close-quarters combat, brutal, decisive. When smoke cleared, 4 more cavalry were dead. Morrison stood with his service revolver pressed against schoolteacher Mary Jameson's head. "Drop it," Morrison snarled. "Drop it or she dies." Marcus looked into Mary Jameson's terrified eyes, then at Morrison's desperate face. The calculation was simple. He lowered his rifle. "Smart," Morrison said. "Now kick it away." Marcus complied, but as his boot connected with the Winchester, he palmed the Remington Derringer concealed in his sleeve. 2 shots, point-blank range. Morrison's gun hand exploded. He screamed and stumbled backward, releasing the hostage. Marcus drew his Colt, but froze as hoofbeats thundered outside. More cavalry, reinforcements. "Federal Marshal, everybody stay calm." Sheriff Wade burst through the bank entrance, badge gleaming, followed by 3 deputy marshals. Marcus recognized Wade from the war. Good soldier, honest lawman. "Wade," Marcus said, keeping his Colt trained on the wounded Morrison. "Perfect timing. Marcus Cole, heard you were working this territory." Wade surveyed the carnage. "We've been tracking Morrison for weeks. Army Tribunal issued federal arrest warrants." Morrison clutched his shattered hand, blood seeping between his fingers. "This is illegal. I'm a decorated officer." "You're a war criminal," Wade replied, producing official documents. "These warrants charge you with murder, theft of government property, and conspiracy to commit genocide." "The investigation's complete," one of the marshals added. We have sworn testimony from surviving cavalry who refused to participate in civilian massacres. Morrison's face went white. My men wouldn't betray me. Your men got tired of murdering women and children for railroad money, Wade said. Some soldiers still have consciences. Marcus watched Morrison's world collapse. The colonel had built his operation on loyalty bought with blood money and intimidation. When faced with federal justice, that loyalty evaporated. Marcus, Wade continued, there's also the matter of your bounty claim. $5,000, federal warrant. Confirmed. Morrison's alive, so you get full payment. Wade smiled. Though I hear you had help. Kira entered through the blasted rear wall, Sam at her side. Both carried their rifles with casual competence. Mrs. Blackwater, Wade said respectfully, the Army owes you an apology and compensation. Your husband's intelligence reports were crucial to this investigation. Justice is compensation enough, Kira replied. That and knowing Morrison won't kill any more families. Wade's marshals shackled Morrison and his surviving men. Military tribunals scheduled for next month in Santa Fe. You'll all need to testify. We'll be there, Marcus said. 6 weeks later, Marcus stood on the front porch of what had once been Thomas Blackwater's ranch, watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold. The territorial courthouse had sentenced Morrison to hang for war crimes. His surviving men faced 20 years hard labor. Justice, frontier style. The bounty money had been split 4 ways. Marcus kept his share. Kira used hers to expand the ranch operation. Sam and Rose would have college funds waiting when they came of age, but money wasn't why Marcus had stayed. Kira emerged from the house carrying 2 cups of coffee. She moved with the same tactical awareness that had impressed him during the fight, but now it was tempered with something approaching peace. Sleep well? She asked. Better than I have in years. Marcus accepted the coffee gratefully. Still feels strange, waking up in the same place 2 days running. 3 years of bounty hunting will do that. Always moving, always hunting. She studied his face. You miss it? Marcus considered the question honestly. The thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of bringing dangerous men to justice, the solitary life where the only person he had to worry about was himself. Some of it, he admitted, but not enough to go back. What changed? You did. This place did. Having something worth protecting instead of just something to hunt. They stood in comfortable silence, watching Sam work with the horses in the corral. The boy had grown 3 inches since the fight at Tombstone Flats. Still carried his father's rifle, but now it was a tool for ranch work rather than warfare. Rose appeared in the doorway, already dressed for her morning lessons. Kira had hired a proper teacher from back east, determined that her daughter would have choices beyond violence and survival. Marcus, Rose said, will you teach me to track today? Like you taught Sam? If your ma says it's all right. I say it's necessary, Kira replied. This territory's safer than it was, but it's not safe. Everyone in this family needs to know how to take care of themselves. Marcus smiled at the word family. He'd never expected to be part of one again. Never thought he deserved it after all the killing he'd done. All right, little miss. After your lessons, we'll start with basic sign reading. How to tell how old tracks are, which direction they're heading. Rose beamed and disappeared back into the house to fetch her books. Sam waved from the corral, then returned to gentling a young stallion that would eventually carry him to college in California. You think about the future much? Kira asked. Used to be I didn't think past the next bounty, next town, next target. Marcus sipped his coffee and watched the territory wake up around them. Now I'm thinking about breeding programs for the cattle, about expanding the horse operation, about whether Sam needs a new rifle for his 16th birthday, and I'm thinking about asking a certain half Cherokee, half Mexican widow if she'd consider making this partnership permanent. Kira turned to look at him directly. What kind of permanent? The kind where we build something that lasts longer than either of us. Where those kids have a stable home with two parents who know how to fight for what matters. You sure about that? Taking on a ready-made family? Giving up the freedom of the trail? Marcus thought about freedom. 3 years riding alone across dangerous country, answering to no one, caring about nothing except the next payday. It had been freedom of a sort, but it had also been loneliness disguised as independence. Ma'am, he said formally, I've been sure since the moment you asked if I wanted to be your partner in this operation. Kira smiled, the first time he'd seen her truly, completely happy since they'd met over her husband's grave. Well then, she said, I suppose we'd better start planning a wedding. Can't have the children thinking we're living in sin. Just one condition. What's that? No more wars. No more hunting wanted men. From here on out, we're in the business of building things, not tearing them down. Deal, Kira said, extending her hand. Partners? Partners, Marcus agreed, shaking on it. As if summoned by some unspoken signal, Sam and Rose appeared on the porch, grinning like they'd been eavesdropping. About time, Sam said with 14-year-old wisdom. We've been wondering when you two would figure it out. Figure what out? Marcus asked. That you belong here, Rose said simply. That this is your family now. Marcus looked at these three people who'd somehow become the center of his world. At the woman who'd taught him that strength came in many forms. At the children who represented hope for a territory that had seen too much violence. At a future built on something more solid than gunpowder and blood money. Yes, he said quietly. I suppose it is. 2 years later, the Coal Blackwater Ranch was the largest operation in 3 counties. Marcus had been elected sheriff, running on a platform of law and order, backed by demonstrated competence. Kira served on the Territorial Education Board, ensuring that frontier children received proper schooling. Sam was enrolled at the University of California, studying engineering. Rose spoke 3 languages and could outshoot most grown men. Both carried themselves with the quiet confidence of people who knew they were loved and protected. The territory had learned that some places fought back when threatened, that justice wasn't always delivered by federal courts and territorial governors. Sometimes it came from ordinary people who refused to let evil triumph through inaction. And Marcus Cole had learned that the most dangerous mission of all was the one where you had something to lose. But also the most worthwhile. The wartime shooter's war was over. The builder's work would last forever. In the American West, a man's true measure wasn't the violence he could deliver, but what he chose to protect. Marcus Cole had finally found something worth protecting, and he was never letting it go.